Hello, and welcome to episode 17 of the Elevate Your Running podcast. My name is Sarah Mandershot. I'm here with Austin Myers, and we are here to talk about racing and community and all great things today. Austin, how are you doing?
Doing very well today. I know we have a great conversation on tap because we are just riding the momentum that we saw not too long ago from some of the Elevate athletes and some of our takeaways as coaches for how we can, promote those same successes from athletes in the future.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about performance and achievement today. It's going to be really exciting. I'm still riding the high from last weekend's race. I'm very, very, very excited to talk about it today. So let's kick off with elevated moments. Austin, I'd love for you to start, and I might be piggybacking off of your elevated moment.
Yeah, so now that I'm back in Kentucky, I'm 1,100 miles away from all the action a few weekends ago. But I felt the energy through social media, through my conversations with you, when you were reflecting on the successes of your athletes, our athletes. So that's got to be my elevated moment for two reasons, not just from the perspective of just I love running. And it really got me excited to race here in a few weeks, seeing the successes of those athletes, because I followed along with their training. I follow them all on social media. I follow at least one of them on Strava. I saw the work that went into it. I saw the 5 a.m. training runs. I saw the doubles. And I just saw the focus. Like, you can tell when someone is just consumed by a goal. And that's what I saw from these athletes. So from the athlete's perspective, that just energizes me. It makes me want to be a part of that greatness that you're seeing come out of these people. And from the coach's perspective, it just got me so excited to work with people to promote these same wins because they're life-changing. Like, you don't forget that feeling of overcoming the fatigue at mile 23. It will change the way you approach all future challenges. If you allow it to, and if you're able to overcome and endure, which is really the name of the game in racing a marathon. So that's got to be my elevated moment. It really filled me up in both ways, athlete and coach.
I love that. Thank you. I have goosebumps just from the beautiful words that you said and how you described it and communicated it. It is by far my elevated moment of the week, of the month, probably as of right now, my career. A beautiful, beautiful day in Fort Collins. And it wasn't just the marathon team. Yes, all three of them showed up, committed to the process. We had the goal. Some of Jason and Matt started November 1st. Pooja started the first week in January, and we went after it. They were all in. I was all in. And it was a very, very beautiful moment. We'll talk more about it later. The other side of the race was the half marathon team, and Tucker Gross and I coach an in-person squad on Wednesday nights in Denver. And that squad came together, also trained every week together. They came in and ran really, really strong half marathon performances. So that was awesome to see. Shout out to Krista, Sapan, Joe, Tracy, Larry ran the 10K, Isaac, and I think that's it. I feel like I'm missing someone. Nestor ran the marathon, and he also crushed it. So it was awesome. It was so great. I'm still on cloud nine a little bit from it, days removed. So a beautiful, beautiful weekend of racing. And we'll talk more about that as we get started with the podcast. So I guess let's jump into it, right?
Yeah.
So let's recap the marathon. Austin, what would you like to say?
Well, I just think we need to not only do these athletes justice, but we need to, really talk about, like, this was a community effort. And I believe that that's something that is, a really big point for us as coaches. Is it's not just me and the athlete. It's about being able to connect these athletes, because I've seen it from my perspective as a runner before I even got into the coaching side of things, like seeing these other runners really just energizes me to get out there each day, to put in my best effort and to see what I can create about it. And when you're able to do that, it just gives you such a deep connection with another person to be able to share that experience, because you're sharing in some ways pain, discomfort. And, for a lot of us who maybe train for 12 to 16 weeks, like there's insecurities that pop up in those 12 to 16 weeks, but
Yeah.
us training for this and just continuing to put one foot in front of the other every single day is proof that you can overcome that.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Mike Kennedy, who also ran the half marathon. So sorry about that, Mike. I knew there was someone else. And he crushed it too. He's looking to have some really awesome, stronger running this fall. So it'll be great to work with him one-on-one, to get him to his goal of beating his dad's marathon PR, which is a 3:30. So we're going to get him there to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mike is great. Adds a lot of fun to the mix. So, but yeah, Austin, I totally agree with you. I think, I know the community aspect is huge. And I didn't actually realize how big it was maybe until this weekend, because a lot of athletes, yes, I had an in-person group that trained together, but I also train a lot of individual athletes, right? And the three that ran the marathon, Matt, Pooja, and Jason, they trained individually. They didn't train together. They were on their own path. The easy running looked about the same, but their workouts were structured differently and different for what they needed that week, as they all were kind of on different training blocks. And yet they still showed up together and supported each other. They supported each other on social media. They supported each other over Strava, which I guess you could consider social media. And, we came in to do a tune-up race in FOCO in Fort Collins in March. Shout out to Elevate Athlete Brandon, who also flew in from Texas to come for that race. And, they all crushed it and they all ran together. And it was, it was really the start of something beautiful over the next 6 weeks. And they all got to show up together on Sunday, May 1st. They rode the buses together. They took a picture before the start together. And I know Jason and Pooja started out together. Matt kind of took off, which was fine because that was his plan. And they're all in different age brackets, which I think is a lot of fun too, just knowing that the paces were kind of all over the place, but they all still hit their A goal of Boston qualifying with enough of a cushion where we can confidently say that they are going to be running in Boston spring of 23. We have a time cushion of between 8:41 to 9:49, which is a really great, it's a really great cushion. And it just makes me so excited. I'll also be there. I have a pretty solid cushion as well and don't anticipate not going. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And they all got to do it together, which is something I think they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, which is really, really special.
Yeah. And I want to kind of go, within that day, at least from your perspective as the coach, maybe anything that you've heard from the athletes, because, as you're talking, I'm listening to it from the athlete's perspective right now, because I have my marathon here in about 3.5 weeks. And what I heard from you as you kind of gave us an overview is a few things. Number one, there was an individualized plan for these athletes' training cycles. Mm-hmm. There was also an individualized approach and strategy for race day. And in all three instances, these athletes respected their own game plan and they committed to it, and they performed at the highest level that they could within that plan. And sometimes it's really hard because, throughout the 12 to 16 weeks that you're training for a race, you can get a little bit overzealous sometimes. You can believe that, if you see, especially repetition, like, in the endurance game, there's going to be a lot of repetition in your week to week training. There's going to be easy runs that are the same distance on the same day. There's going to be workouts that are relatively similar across a span of a few weeks. So you have to embrace that, and you have to understand that like repetition is not the enemy.
Yeah.
But your ability to approach each workout and perform to the best of your ability and to the best of, the plan of the workout, that is what's going to move the needle as an athlete. And that's what moved the needle for these 3 athletes in Fort Collins.
Absolutely. It absolutely did. And it was really awesome to watch and to witness as a coach. So let's cut to race morning. And we're out there. I'm out there. So actually the 10K started at 7:00. So I got to see our 10K racer come through, and he was crushing it, and he ran a huge PR that morning, which was amazing to see. And then Tucker and I went off to watch the half marathon team. They started at 6:30 on the backside of the marathon route, right? So we got to see them at mile 8, all coming in with, maybe within 8 minutes of each other. They were all packed together. Some were running together, which I thought was really beautiful. Others were kind of leading the pack as well. And that was great to see. They were all looking really strong. And then, for the marathon side, if you're familiar with the Colorado Marathon, they start up a canyon, right? And there really isn't access to see them until mile 17. There's also not tracking available. So I woke up, feeling really excited, especially I got to see all of them the night before. We did a big team dinner, which I think was really fun to bring everyone together. We had an early bird special dinner, and we hung out for like an hour or so afterwards outside of the restaurant and just chatted. And it was a beautiful, beautiful night. And I think it just kind of calmed the nerves for everyone too. But I woke up excited on Sunday morning, and it was really great to see the team come down through 17 and check in with each of them. I'm a pretty hands-on coach. I think anyone who has coached with me knows that I'm really involved. I really care. So when I had this team going for such a big goal, we talked about how I can set them up for success, right? In my past marathons, I've always had trouble with hydration. So let's get water on the course. So I ended up carrying water with me, little bottles, like 10 ounces of water. I think I brought 8 with me for the day. I ended up going home with 2. So they were definitely used and I think appreciated from those 3. And I had gels, I had honey stinger waffles, I had salt tabs, I had everything that they needed except Band-Aids, and Jason will get that. Somehow I saw Jason at 23 and Jason was bleeding. So so afterwards I found out it was like a water station malfunction. He's fine. We joke on the team that everyone has Jason's blood on their hands because he was giving high fives at the finish line, and it was really awesome to see, but there was also blood. Isn't there always blood in a marathon though? Come on, like running the streets of Boston, I was seeing so much blood on course. Like it is really interesting to see how that shows up. But anyways,
40,000 steps, you're bound to miss one and make a mistake.
Yeah, I know. I mean, come on, everyone knows in training I fall. So like all this hasn't happened in a race. I shouldn't actually say that and jinx myself. But anyways, just showing the support and the care and the love. And, race day was really exciting. It was a beautiful morning. The weather was so dialed. It was maybe mid 30s, cloudy, perfect running weather. So I got to see the team at around 17. Water, salt sticks if they needed it, gels if they needed it. Matt had a very specific gel he wanted me to give him at 17. I got to run with each of them for a little bit at 17 so they could keep the momentum, keep the speed going. And I'm happy to say I was able to jump right into a 6:45 pace with Matt and run up a hill for a little bit with him, which was fun, and checked in with them. Our goal at 17 was to make sure each one felt strong at 17 And that's what happened. My next stop was at 23. And Matt at that point was feeling strong, but had started to slow down a little bit. Jason was bleeding, but feeling good. And Pooja, just looked at me and she said, I'm doing this. And off she went. And, my job was to support and love on course, setting them up for success with whatever they needed from me. I got to run a little bit further with Jason at 23 to kind of coach him through the last 5K. And I've spoken to him about this. I said, I really wish I could have ran the last 5K with you, but that's also up to the athlete to do as well, right? I think he probably would have wanted me to, but at the end of the day, it probably feels better now knowing he did it on his own. I gave him some coaching advice, some things to lean into for the last 5K. And I don't think I'm ever going to forget that moment. It was really special and fun. And it was really great. So not only was my job to do all of that, but I also told each one of them, I wanted to get them to mile 22 feeling strong. In my mind, that's a really great point in the marathon where if you have to suffer for 4 miles, that's a pretty good ratio of miles where you're feeling strong versus not. And they all got there, and that felt really great.
Yeah. And that takes strategy. Like that doesn't happen by chance. You don't run 22 miles and then it starts to set in, that you're tired and that you're hurting. That takes strategy. So that's big on you as the coach to help establish that strategy for each athlete, but it's also really big on the athlete because, when you're out there running the marathon, a lot of things can come up in those first 22 miles of a race where, if you feel great at mile 6, the coach isn't there telling you to hold back. And, if you start to already feel it at mile 13, no one's there to push you in most situations. So you have to really take ownership over that plan as the athlete. And you have to, I think I said it a few episodes ago, it's something I'm keeping in mind as I approach my race is do not try to outrun your fitness level. Respect where you're currently at, because number one, you're probably in a very strong place as compared to where you were when you started the training cycle 12 to 16 weeks ago. So respect that, first of all, because you've built where you're at right now. But also don't try to outrun it, because it'll catch up with you over the course of 26.2 miles. It'll catch up with you no matter the distance of the race. You can run a mile race and you can go out too fast. And obviously the period of time that you are suffering is reduced, but ultimately, no matter the distance, we are racing for endurance. And part of endurance is that we can stay within ourselves for at least a specific amount of time in the race, because, we don't want to go out at a certain pace and then find that at the end of the race, we fell off big time. Ultimately, that's going to lead to worse results than if we go out a little bit more conservative and finish strong. And that's the internal battle that has to be fought from the athlete's perspective.
Absolutely. Like, I laughed at the very beginning of your comment because the coach may have been on course a little bit. So Jason got a note. So we have a great relationship, right? I love my athletes. We can joke, we can have fun. We also get to work hard. So on Jason's coaching call, we talked about running your own race, and he was going to start with Pooja, but also they both got to lean into, although they were both in shape to run roughly the same time, they had slightly different plans kind of based on how both of their bodies showed up the last few weeks of training, what was in their wheelhouse, how do we comfortably crush this marathon to still BQ and not blow up, right? In the end. And so Jason had a very specific message for Matt. If Matt went out too fast, that came from me. So the coach was on course to some extent, but I don't think he needed to use it. They all executed their plans beautifully. The hardest thing, I think, for all three of them to wrap their heads around, and I would have been in this exact same boat. It's the same strategy for Boston. Is the first 6 miles have a really good descent, and it is fast. And We talked about slowing down. I don't want their quads shredded in that first 10K. Let's slow your roll. Let's feel comfortable. Let people pass you. Feel comfortable with people passing you, knowing that you will catch up to them. And all three of them were like, okay, I'm going to trust this. I don't really feel like I just want to go out and start running. And what happened is they started passing people towards the end of the race. They all started out the way that they should have started out. I think actually all three of them went very, very fast at mile 3. So something there was going on, and then they pulled it back, and it was really great. So having the strategy for the course too, and like really trusting the coach, and that in that instance of knowing that I'm setting them up for success, even if they are running 10 to 15 seconds slower than goal pace in that first 10K, when it feels very easy because they're losing 50, 60, 70 feet per mile.
Trust is huge.
It's huge.
Trust first and foremost starts with yourself. You have to build that trust with yourself. And from my experience, that is built through just working and learning more and more as you refine your approach and as you continue to work towards goals. I mean, you have to set goals.
Yeah.
And sometimes setting goals is a scary thing because ultimately people don't trust that they are going to stay committed towards the goal, or in the end of the commitment, they don't trust that they're able to achieve the goal. But if you're in that position and you just don't know, the guidance I can give you is just to take one step at a time. Like, set the goal, be fearless in that way. It's going to be uncomfortable, but as you continue to work and piece together the days of effort, you will begin to build that trust with yourself. That's something that I built with myself in my first marathon buildup this past fall. I knew I didn't have all the answers. I knew that it was going to be an extremely imperfect marathon prep, and it was. But over that course of 16 weeks, I built trust with myself, and I used that trust every single day in the current marathon buildup that I have. And all I'm doing in this marathon buildup is continuing to stack wins that I'm then going to use in the future. Allow yourself to recognize all of the greatness that you're achieving, and greatness is achieved day by day. And when you're able to do that, that trust is going to build to such a level that you're going to set goals for yourself that are big. And yeah, you're going to be scared. That's human nature. You're going to be a little bit unsure of yourself, but you are still going to have such a strong base of confidence that you're going to go into it understanding that, you know, you're either going to achieve it or you're going to get really, really close. And really close is a lot farther than potentially where you're at right now. And just embrace that. Trust yourself.
Yeah, it's a really, really big foundational piece to running and life. And you also get to trust your coach, right? If you're hiring someone to work with you, like, you have to be able to trust them and have the confidence in them that they know what they're doing and they have their best interests at heart. And, you know, all the athletes that I work with, I think until they actually race for the first time, there might be that question of like, why am I running so slow to race fast? I don't get how this works, until they actually do it. And then it's amazing. And it takes so much pressure off of training, or at least I feel it does. And, you know, all the athletes that I work with, you know, I want that trust to be there, but specifically for the Colorado Marathon weekend with the half marathon team as well, like, they all had really solid plans and they stuck with it, while also trusting their body and knowing what they were also capable of. So I think that's really a fun piece to it too. It's like, you get to lean in and trust the people that you partner with and trust yourself in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad that you took that next progression to, if you're going to hire a coach, make sure that you trust that coach. And that's also a process that builds upon itself, because Sarah, when we began working together, well, I mean, first of all, I did my first marathon build up without a coach.
Yeah.
Because I had an outline of a plan. I trusted, and I felt like there was a lot to be learned from kind of taking myself through the process. And being introspective in that way. But coming into my second marathon prep that we're, coming to the conclusion of right now, I wanted that guidance. I wanted to be able to take my knowledge to the next level, and to be able to kind of like have those hard conversations of how do you feel today? The hard conversation of preparing a race strategy that we'll have here in a few weeks. And, you were somebody that I trusted in a few ways. Number one, I trusted that you had the knowledge to help me achieve my goal. And that's a knowledge of training, that maybe I have been building over the last few weeks, but I didn't have in the beginning. And then I also trusted that you had my best interests in mind as an athlete. And both of those things have just continued to be proven true over the last 13, 14 weeks that we've been working together. So, it's important that there's a base level of trust with any coach that you begin working with. And then it's extremely important that that trust is continued to be reaffirmed and just built over the course of your training cycle. Because when you have that trust with, number one, yourself, and then number two, the coach who's hopefully mentoring you to a big goal, that's where you're really going to have big achievement.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Austin. I love being all in with my athletes. And, I've had people give me feedback that I might be spending too much time with them and coaching them, but I really love seeing athletes reach their goals and strive for something, know that they can do it, reach it, and that after high of heck yes, this is the new baseline, we're going to continue to move forward. Now, training and racing, it's never linear, and there's always going to be times, workouts, races that don't go well, and that's okay too. That's life. But it's really fun to be able to be part of the process and to create something fun for each athlete. Now, Austin, I know I said this to you in an audio note shortly after the Colorado Marathon, like, buckle up, Austin. You are next on this BQ train, and I'm really excited. I don't want to add any pressure, but I do know it's there. You're going to run a very, very strong marathon in Buffalo. You are on the same path that the three that BQ'd at the Colorado Marathon were on. It's very, very similar. The work ethic, the style, the athleticism, the talent, the times are there. So you get to lean in, trust yourself, trust the race strategy, and have a lot of fun in the process.
Yeah, that confidence has been built for sure. As we sit 3.5 weeks out, I'm raring to go. And that confidence has been built through the structure of training that we've had over the past few weeks, both in the speed workouts and in the long runs. Like, both of those have been huge confidence builders that we've been able to, produce every single week. And, at the end of the day, from the athlete's perspective, if you want to build that confidence, you just have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to put yourself in a position of, either you hit the goal for that specific day or you don't. And either way, confidence can be built from it. Like, I've had plenty of workouts where maybe I didn't feel the way that I wanted to feel, or I didn't produce the result that I wanted to produce. And in both situations, it just allowed me to invest a little bit more, like use the emotions of this entire process to invest more so in both the physical nature of it and then the mental side of it. And going back to, last podcast episode, talking about optimizing your approach to the race, I'm at a point now where I'm really looking at every single thing that I can optimize as we head into the taper, the race week, the race day. It's just that time where, you couldn't place me in a situation where I'm not going to run that race and run it to the best of my ability, because we've built such a strong base of just belief, confidence, and investment.
Yeah, absolutely. You've really, really excelled and adapted well to a slightly aggressive training plan. Like I definitely met you where you were at the beginning and have really tried to push you a little bit in the workouts, push you a little bit in the long runs, and you have exceeded expectations. So it's going to be a really fun race for you, and I'm excited to have our call and to see what you get to create on race day.
Yeah, and something that I was considering as you were talking about the successes of these athletes and the successes of you as their coach is that both the athlete and the coach bring something extremely unique that is shared in a way, but is not the same. And that is the why. That is the purpose. The athletes that you're working with, and Sarah, I know this is a question and a discussion that you have with them from the outset of your time with them, is you want to know their purpose. You want to know their why. And in a lot of situations, we don't know our why when we first start. And I can promise you that it definitely evolves over the course of a training cycle or just, a year or a decade of our lives. Our why, our purpose will continue to evolve. But it is crucial, both from the athlete's perspective and the coach's perspective, or in whatever you're doing in your life, to have that larger purpose. Because when it starts to hurt, and hurt comes in many different forms, it is mental, emotional, and physical. When it starts to hurt, the greater purpose is going to be ultimately what pushes you through. So have it in place and be willing to explore it over the course of your time training and building towards a goal. Because if you can explore all different areas of that purpose, you're going to be able to pull those places out of you, over the course of a 26.2 mile race.
Absolutely. It's going to make you really hold pace, continue to push when things start to hurt and get nasty, and all the things that the marathon can do, because the marathon doesn't owe us anything. And I definitely agree with that. It's really fun to go through a training cycle and seeing the athletes evolve, as you said, physically, mentally, like so fun to see where they start and where they end and how fit they are, not just in their bodies, not just in their legs, but in their mind and their confidence around that. And it's really, really special. And I know that when I went through my first training cycle, every training cycle I've gone through, I learned something new about myself, and I can apply that not just in running, but in life. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And it's really fun. I also want to mention, these athletes that ran on Sunday, the three that BQ'd, like it was Matt's debut marathon. So hello, that's amazing. Jason had only run one marathon before. It was the Colfax Marathon in 2019 and had a huge PR. And then Pooja ran, bless her heart, a virtual marathon solo in 2020 during the pandemic. And way to go for her. She's a mom of two young kids and putting that all together. And, it definitely didn't go the way that she wanted to. So stepping into this marathon feeling so strong, so powerful. It was her first in-person marathon, and they all crushed it. And that's exciting to see as well. So I say that because when you are just starting out, maybe you're running your first or your second marathon, like you're definitely growing and evolving. I would arguably say like a little bit at a faster rate, right? There's more to learn. There's more to learn from and grow from. So it's really, really fun to see that over the course of the last 4 to 6 months with all three of them.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning, actually, on my run, and just kind of thinking through like race day situations and what it would feel like on the course. And I thought about a potential like time, finishing time. I don't know. I feel like there's a point in marathon prep. Sarah, let me know if you disagree. I don't think you will, but a point in marathon prep where you just start to get really curious. Like you're like, what can I produce on the course on this day? And I'm probably well beyond that point, but it was going through my head today where it's like, if I can hit this specific time, then, what's the next and greater thing that I can then work towards for the New York City Marathon in November? And it went through my head that, you're going to PR by whatever amount of time in this marathon. And as you continue to evolve and as you continue to become a better athlete, it gets even harder to then continue to make improvements, because you have to dive even deeper into the process. You have to invest more. You have to be willing to sacrifice more. But I do believe that is why we love it, because we understand that is the way that life is. And if we can learn some of those lessons through signing up for a race, training for 16 weeks, and then hopefully producing an amazing result, that is a great way to learn some lessons.
Absolutely. It really, really is. And I had to smile when you were sharing that, because usually, or I should say, like the first marathon that I ran, had a race strategy call with Nal, or we met in person, and she's like, you're in shape to run 3:18. And I'm like, great. So I went around that whole week telling everyone I was going to run a 3:15, like no idea how hard it is. And when I finished, I ended up running a 3:25. I ran very consistent splitting, and my I guess the side of me, my conservative side in me, just held a pace that I knew I could hold for the whole race, and I didn't really push the envelope. So 3:25. And I remember my sister afterwards was like, where's the 3:15? Like, she's also not run a marathon. It's like, well, it's not that easy. Like, so it's learning so many fun things along the way, and so many things about how you show up as an athlete when things start to hurt, or I like to say intensify. Like, how are you showing up? Do you stop? Do you lean into it? Do you turn the music up? Do you turn the music off? Do you start like looking around to distract you? Like, there's so many different things that you can do. So it's really interesting to take that deep dive just going inwards and, looking at how you are showing up in those moments. And it's a really fun process. It's one of the things that I love most about the marathon.
I hope it's a sunny day in Buffalo, New York on May 29th, because I've found that when I start to hurt, I stare at my shadow that's in front of me.
I like that.
There's been a few cloudy days here in Kentucky recently.
Yeah.
So I haven't had my shadow out there with me, or at least I can't see him. So I really hope that he's out there with me on race day, because that's just a place that I go to. It has to become both equal parts like mindless and also like very mindful of how you feel, but you have to find that balance. And I think really what we've been talking about, from both the coaches and athletes perspective, is that the athlete has to bring something or many things that a coach just simply can't provide. Like, as the coach, we can provide so much. And I've seen that from the athlete's perspective. I've seen that, like, how much a coach can provide you. And in many ways, the weight that a coach can take away from you, because you don't have to look as deeply into your training. Maybe you don't have to establish your own plan or go searching for resources. So there's so much that a coach does provide you. But if you're not bringing something very unique and important to the game as the athlete, then there's only so much a coach can do to move the needle.
Absolutely. Athletes get to show up, right? I've worked with athletes who thought, okay, I hired a coach, the work is done. No, the work is just beginning. Sorry, the work is just beginning. So the coach gets to create extra space and time for the athlete, because I'm dialed in on the backside, or we are dialed in on the backside, Austin. We're looking at training runs. We're supporting them in their workouts and their long runs. We're giving them advice. We are answering their questions. Yesterday I was talking with an athlete, and we went through like the shoes that she should be wearing for different workouts and picking out those shoes, and really going in as deep as the athletes want to go in on those sides of those topics of conversation. But the athlete gets to show up. The athlete gets to put their shoes on, 5 to 6 times a week and get out the door. And as a coach, hopefully all the other things we are making easier for them.
Yeah. As a coach, the word that I really attach to coaching and what I feel like is really strong and important coaching is like meticulous. Like you really get to comb through the details that in a lot of situations, the athlete doesn't want to because it just drains you. To try to look through everything and think about what it means, like what the times from the workout that you produced mean for race day and all of that. Like we get to be meticulous as coaches. We get to really be detail oriented, and the athlete just gets to put rubber to road. Obviously you have to understand the approach that needs to be taken. You have to keep those goals within your mind as you go throughout the workout, or you either won't hit, the desired outcome, or you'll overshoot it to a point that maybe you receive diminishing returns. But understanding that the athlete has to be the one who just brings that intentionality to it. And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and trusting that the plan that you're working and the approach that you're taking is going to lead you to success.
Yeah, absolutely. The commitment has to be there on both sides for it to be successful. The athletes on Sunday, all of them, half marathon team 2, 10K, they were all in and they wanted to have fun. And I was all in, and I definitely wanted to have fun, right? Pink is for PRs, bright pink pants on Sunday. And, I was also super intentional with my outfit, like bright pink pants, pink is for PRs. Everyone on the team knows that. I had some really great running shoes on, knowing I was probably running at some point with one or all three of the marathon team. And then I wear my Boston jacket to remind them as they saw me of their goal and what they were looking to accomplish, because I think it's very, very easy on race day when it starts to hurt and the pain starts to set in to pull back and say, not today. This isn't happening today. It's very, very easy to just cave. But what I saw in their training, what I see in your training, Austin, is that even with the workouts that are tough, where maybe there was a little bit of that pain in those mile repeats or those really long tempo efforts, everyone has pushed through. No one has pressed stopped on their watch. No one has paused. Everyone pushed through it. So it was a really great way. It was really just great to see that on Sunday. And then, of course, as a coach on the other side of things, when athletes show up and are committed.
Yeah, the mantra that I go with is, if not now, then when. And it really ties into, the idea that I absolutely love and live by, is that how you do anything is how you do everything. Because if you can't take it there now to the highest level of your fitness capabilities on this day, whether it be a workout day, race day, if you can't take it there today, why do you think you're going to be able to take it there in the future? I'm not running this race at the end of May and saying at mile 16, you know what? It's not my day. We'll see how November 6th goes in New York City, because that's a different situation that needs to be addressed here in a few months. And I understand, this is something that you come to appreciate as an athlete, is you felt that pain and that fatigue and the tax that 16 weeks of a marathon prep takes on your body. You're going to sacrifice that because you're starting to feel pain on race day? No, if not now, then when? And that's the approach that you need to have when you go into it, because it's powerful. It will allow you to overcome the barriers that your mind thinks are in front of you. They're not there.
Absolutely. The marathon is 90% mental, right? When things start to feel a little spicy, things feel a little hard, right? Lean into the mental side of things. And it's something I practice with some of my athletes, kind of depending on what plan they're on. But we talk about mental strength. I have videos and resources for them. It's something that they get to practice every single day. Because you're right, Austin, if you're not showing up in training, how in the heck are you going to pull it through on race day? How you show up in training is how you show up on race day. How you show up in one thing in life is how you show up in all ways in life. And it's very, very, very true. And so if you're finding yourself that maybe you're not consistent with your running, if you're stopping your watch after hard efforts, if you're run walking, if you're doing these things that you're kind of getting in your own way for success, it might be time to reevaluate your goals or reset the commitment and start over. Life is now, right? I'm a big believer in that. Let's, if we haven't been on course or on track, let's hit the reset button. We can do that today and move forward with progress. And if you are doing that, congratulations, because it's a tough thing. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication, and very, very proud of everyone, whatever side you're on, but it's nice to see the athletes who are putting in the hard work and seeing their results on race day.
Yeah. Sunday, May 1st was a huge, huge win for the Elevate Your Running community. It was a huge win for these athletes, and they earned it. Nothing was given to them. They put in the work. They put in, the focus towards the goal, and ultimately it paid off. So congratulations to all of the athletes who had such a great race on that day. I know that, Sarah, you and I hope and believe that this is just the beginning.
Just the beginning, yeah.
Of something that can be really great, and helping athletes just achieve something that was once a goal, was once a vision, and is then brought into reality.
Yeah. The only thing given to these athletes was water and gels on the course. Sorry, I had to say that.
Those can certainly be helpful. But that is what go ahead.
Yeah, they did the hard work, and I'm extremely proud of all of them. Everyone who raced on Sunday. I had an athlete race in the Providence Half Marathon, and she ran in between her A and B goal and just crushed it. It was a really big win for her as well. And this is just the beginning. I feel like, we as Elevate coaches have cracked the code in terms of how to motivate, inspire, lift athletes high while giving them the right training for their fitness, where they're at, and pulling them through to the other side. And it's really exciting to see. To Jason, Pooja, and Matt, all three of you are amazing humans, amazing athletes. And I'm just really, really proud of you. And that I couldn't stop saying that on Sunday. And the best is yet to come. We get to run Boston together.
That'll be exciting. If you are searching for someone to help you pursue these running goals, these life goals, feel free to reach out to us. You can contact us at elevateyourrunning.com. You can find us on social media. We'll give you those tags here in a moment. Also, if you are just a frequent listener and you want to be a part of the community, you can send us your elevated moments. We share ours at the beginning of every single episode, and we want to hear yours. So send us your elevated moments to elevateyourrunning@gmail.com. We definitely love to connect with you in that way. And then you can find us on social media. I am on Instagram at AustinMyers12.
Yeah. And I am on Instagram and Twitter at Sayrah, SAYRAH runs happy, and at Elevate Your Running. Thank you everyone for listening. A big shout out to all the Elevate Your Running athletes, whether you're running 10Ks, half marathons, marathons. We have some ultra runners on the team. You all are incredible. You are enough the way that you are. And I'm very excited to be partnered with you this year to help you reach your goals. Thanks everyone for listening again, and have a great week.